And Sri Lankans are casting their ballots in a snap general election. The polls will determine whether the island nation wants to further empower its new president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake. Now, Dissanayake seeks to secure a majority in parliament to push his policies as Sri Lanka struggles to recover from a crushing financial crisis. Now, voting began at 7 a.m. local time and will end at 4 p.m., with counting scheduled to start shortly after. Now, there are 225 parliamentary seats on the ballot. 17 million voters of the island nation will be exercising their right on today, with over 8,800 candidates contesting the election. Now, the parliamentary election process has certain special provisions to it. Of the total 225 seats in parliament, Sri Lankans vote directly for 196 seats. And for the remaining 29, political parties elect lawmakers on the basis of national vote percentage of every party. Now, just days after he was elected, President Dissanayake had dissolved the parliament on September 24th to clear the way for the general election. The parliament's 5-year term was due to end in August 2025. But with the poll seemed necessary for Dissanayake's National People's Power Party, as the NPP currently has just 3 lawmakers in the outgoing parliament as per the 2020 mandate. The president hopes for a fresh mandate that he needs to push his policies. Now, his main challenger is Sajid Premadasa's SJP, which currently holds 54 seats. And this time, several big faces have stepped away from the spotlight. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who lost the presidential elections to Anura Kumara Dissanayake, will not be contesting an election for the first time since 1977. The Rajapaksa brothers, Mahinda and Gotabaya, who were ousted from power after the 2022 economic crisis, are also not participating in the electoral contest. All right, to discuss more, we are being joined by our correspondent Dasani Athoda. She is in Colombo. Thank you so much, Dasani. The last time we talked, it was just an hour after the polling started. You talked to us about how many people have turned out. Tell us more from the ground.
Well, I'm currently outside Thurston College here in Colombo, which is another polling station here in central Colombo. It's been a couple of hours since polling opened here in Sri Lanka. There is a steady inflow of voters coming in to cast their vote, although noticeably we can kind of deduce that this number of voters who show up early in the morning is a little lower than what we saw during the presidential election. And election officials are yet to give us an initial update on voter turnout. We are expected to get that towards midday, where they will be telling us what the voter turnout is in percentage levels in many districts. As per what's happening around in Colombo, this appears to be just another Thursday, with a lot of individuals who voted heading back to work, as today is not a public holiday, with a lot of those working at offices heading back to their work.
Right, Dasani, just do stay with us because we're going to come back to know about the voter sentiments. We now are being joined by Dr. Aruna Kulatunga from Colombo. Aruna is a political analyst and former advisor to the Ministry of Primary Industries. Thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us. Now, I would like to understand how important this election is for Dissanayake, and knowing that he just won the presidential election and he quickly called for snap elections, considering he has 3 seats in the parliament. How important is this election?
I would consider this extremely important for Mr. Dissanayake and also for the country. Basically, we do not want to have a divided parliament, a divided executive, and a divided government. In that sense, if we've had that situation before, where the president was from one party and the government or the parliament was from a different party. That was in 2001. When Madam Chandrika Bandaranaike was the president and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe became the prime minister. This was a disaster. It didn't last too long. And we do not like to see the same situation repeating this time. But however, having said that, what most analysts are expecting, including myself, is to see a simple majority for the NPP And it's after many years, it will be also the only election where a single party would be gaining the upper hand in the government. All of these years, ever since 1977, we've had we had governments formed by several political parties getting together. So this would be after 1977 one of the first instances where a single party would be forming the government, and that's very important to happen, because if that happens, most of the how would I say that minority parties who get into the government and make demands from the main party do not have that kind of leverage that they had before, which is a significant change from 1977 onwards.
Right. I would just like to go back to our correspondent here, Dasani. Tell us about the voter sentiments that are in people. We know that this Dissanayake, and he got a clear mandate as president, but what are the voters feeling like? Because he has 3 seats and he's also wanting to go for a majority, as our guest said as well. What are the voters saying?
Well, voter sentiment is twofold, to be exact, where a certain faction believes that this change is well needed and that they are voting for candidates who are fresh faces and newer candidates who would support the view of President Dissanayake, while a fair few of another faction of voters are of the feel that this is a parliament that needs a strong opposition that will constructively criticize and support President Dissanayake. So that is more of a two-pronged mentality between the voters, which will reflect into votes, and we will see what this makeup of votes will look like during the counting process.
Right. I'll come back to our guest now. We just heard our correspondent talked about how important the opposition might be as well. So if we do see a majority, what kind of role do you think the opposition, like probably Premadasa, would play?
Well, it remains to be seen how strong the opposition would be. I agree with your correspondent that there should be a strong opposition. Many people say that there should be strong opposition. But in a situation where I think the reports that I'm getting, that the voter turnout is quite low, and therefore in a situation like that, it's always the incoming party or the PP in this instance who would be gaining the votes. So it's going to be interesting to see how many votes they can get and whether they can pass. Of course, I'm pretty sure that they will pass the simple majority. But if they will pass the two-thirds majority, which is needed in this country to change the constitution, change some of the acts that are related to the constitution, a lot of the most important legislative acts needs that two-thirds majority. So whether they will get it, and if they get it, how they are going to use it is a question mark. So I agree, there has to be a strong opposition. But from the voters' sentiments that we are seeing on the ground, it looks as if they would get close to that two-thirds majority that they're looking for.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor, for giving your perspective and taking your time. And Dasani, of course, we'll be having you again on the show telling us about what happens on the ground. Thank you so much for both of you.